What you're about to listen to will absolutely shock you and leave you in tears by the end. Before we begin, please hit that like button, share this story with your friends, and don't forget to comment below telling us where you're watching from. The rain hammered against the windshield like angry fists as Sarah pulled into the petrol station. Her 5-year-old son Noah pressed his face against the car window, watching the water cascade down in thick streams. Thunder rolled overhead, making the little boy jump. "Mummy, the sky is angry," Noah whispered, his breath fogging up the glass. Sarah glanced at her watch and sighed. They were already 40 minutes late for Noah's doctor's appointment, and this sudden storm had made driving nearly impossible. She needed petrol, but more than that, she needed a moment to collect herself. Being a single mother meant juggling everything alone, and days like this made her feel like she was drowning. "Just a quick stop, sweetheart," she said, reaching for her purse. "Stay in the car while I pay." But as Sarah stepped out into the pelting rain, Noah's small voice stopped her cold. "Mummy, look, there's someone sleeping by the bins." Sarah followed her son's pointing finger and froze. Curled up against the side of the petrol station, barely protected by a small overhang, was a massive German shepherd. The dog wasn't moving, not even a twitch when lightning flashed across the sky. "Oh no," Sarah muttered, her heart sinking. "The poor thing." She was about to shepherd Noah away when she noticed something that made her blood run cold. A piece of paper, soaked and crumpled, was tucked under the dog's collar. Even from a distance, she could see writing on it. "Is the doggy sleeping, Mummy?" Noah asked, his voice small and worried. Sarah's maternal instinct screamed at her to get back in the car, drive away, and pretend she'd never seen anything. They were late. This wasn't her problem. But something about the way the dog lay there, so still and vulnerable, tugged at her heart. "I don't know, baby. Let me just check." Against her better judgment, Sarah approached the dog slowly. The closer she got, the more her stomach twisted with dread. The German shepherd was breathing, but barely. Its ribs showed through matted wet fur, and there were cuts on its legs that looked infected. But it was the note that made her hands shake as she carefully pulled it free from the collar. The ink had run in places, but she could still make out the desperate scrawl. "Please help her. She's not just a dog. They're coming for her. Trust no one else." Sarah's heart pounded as she read the words again. What did that mean? Who was coming? And why did someone abandon this beautiful animal in such a cruel way? The dog's eyes suddenly opened, and Sarah gasped. They were the most piercing blue she'd ever seen, filled with such intelligence and pain that it took her breath away. The dog didn't growl or bark. Instead, it seemed to study Sarah's face with an intensity that made her feel like she was being judged. "Mummy!" Noah had gotten out of the car despite her instructions. "The doggy's awake!" "Noah, get back in the car right now," Sarah said firmly. But her son ignored her completely. Instead, Noah walked right up to the German shepherd and knelt down in the rain. Sarah's heart nearly stopped, expecting the dog to snap or show aggression. But something magical happened instead. The dog lifted its massive head and gently nuzzled Noah's small hand. The little boy giggled, completely unafraid. "She likes me, Mummy. Her eyes are like stars." Sarah stared in amazement. The dog that had seemed so broken and defeated moments ago now showed a spark of life. Its tail gave the faintest wag as Noah gently petted its head. "We have to help her," Noah said with the kind of certainty only children possess. "She's scared and hurt." "Noah, honey, we can't just take a strange dog. She might be sick or dangerous or—" "She's not dangerous," Noah interrupted, something he never did. "Look at her eyes, Mummy. She's asking for help." Sarah looked into those blue eyes again and felt something shift inside her chest. The dog wasn't just looking at her, it was pleading with her, trusting her. "Noah, we're already late for your appointment. We can't." "Please, Mummy." Noah's own eyes filled with tears. "She needs us. Can't you see? She's all alone." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Alone. She knew exactly how that felt. Every night after putting Noah to bed, every morning getting him ready for school by herself, every decision she had to make without a partner. She understood being alone in a world that seemed too big and too scary. "The vet is closed today because of the storm," Sarah said, more to herself than to Noah. "Even if we wanted to help." But Noah was already moving. He took off his little raincoat and gently draped it over the dog's back. The German shepherd looked at him with such gratitude that Sarah felt tears mixing with the rain on her face. "We can't leave her here, Mummy." What if the bad people come back? Bad people? Sarah looked at the note again, focusing on the words she'd tried to ignore. They're coming for her. A chill ran down her spine that had nothing to do with the rain. What bad people, Noah? The ones who hurt her. Can't you see the marks on her legs? Someone was mean to her. Noah's voice was matter-of-fact, but his small hands were gentle as he continued petting the dog. She's scared they'll find her. Sarah knelt down beside her son, really looking at the dog for the first time. Noah was right. Those weren't just cuts from being outdoors. They looked deliberate. Old scars mixed with fresh wounds. Someone had hurt this animal systematically. The dog seemed to sense Sarah's change of heart. It struggled to sit up, despite obviously being in pain, and placed one massive paw on Sarah's knee. The gesture was so human, so desperate, that Sarah made a decision that would change everything. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, we'll help her." Noah's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? Really? But we have to be careful. She's hurt, and we don't know what's wrong with her." Getting the German Shepherd into their small car was no easy task. The dog was weak and clearly in pain, but she seemed to understand they were trying to help. She allowed Sarah and Noah to guide her into the back seat, where she immediately curled up and closed her eyes. As they drove away from the petrol station, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She checked her mirrors repeatedly, but saw nothing unusual. Still, the note's warning echoed in her mind. Trust no one else. "What should we call her?" Noah asked, twisted around in his seat to watch the dog. "We're not keeping her, Noah. We're just helping her until we can find her real family." "She doesn't have a real family," Noah said with startling conviction. "That's why she was all alone, and her name is Luna." "Luna?" "Because her eyes shine like the moon." Noah reached back and gently touched the dog's head. "Don't you, Luna?" As if responding to her new name, the dog opened one blue eye and looked directly at Noah. Her tail wagged just once, but it was enough to make the little boy beam with happiness. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from the doctor's office, asking if they were still coming. She looked at the sick dog in her back seat, at her son's determined face, and at the mysterious note still clutched in her hand. "Tell them we'll reschedule," she said quietly. "Because of Luna?" "Because of Luna." As they drove through the storm toward home, Sarah had no idea that she'd just made the most important decision of their lives. Behind them, a dark sedan pulled out of the petrol station parking lot and began following at a distance, its occupants speaking in hushed, urgent tones about the woman and child who had just taken their property. The German Shepherd, Luna, lifted her head just enough to look out the rear window. Her hackles rose slightly, but she didn't make a sound. She had learned long ago that sometimes staying quiet was the difference between life and death. In the front seat, Noah hummed a little song to himself, completely unaware that their lives had just taken a turn towards something extraordinary and dangerous. All he knew was that they had saved Luna, and that made him happier than he'd been in months. Sarah, meanwhile, kept glancing at that note, wondering what they'd gotten themselves into. The words seemed to burn into her memory. She's not just a dog. What did that mean? And who were these people who were supposedly coming for her? By the time they reached their small house on the outskirts of town, the storm had intensified. Sarah helped Luna out of the car, supporting most of her weight as the dog limped toward their front door. Noah ran ahead to open it, chattering excitedly about where Luna would sleep and what she might like to eat. As they stepped inside, Sarah felt a strange sense of completion, as if a piece of their family puzzle had finally fallen into place. She didn't know yet that Luna would soon prove to be more than just a rescued dog. She would become their protector, their hero, and ultimately their salvation. But first, they had to help her heal, and they had to figure out what that cryptic note really meant before whoever wrote it came looking for what they considered to be their property. Luna settled onto the living room rug with a soft sigh, her blue eyes never leaving Noah's face. For the first time in months, she felt something she'd almost forgotten existed: hope. Outside, the dark sedan parked at the end of their street, its occupants making phone calls and taking notes. The hunt had begun, but they didn't know yet that they were dealing with more than just a stolen dog. They were dealing with a family who would fight to protect what they loved. And Luna, despite her injuries and exhaustion, was already beginning to remember what it felt like to have something worth protecting. The next morning brought an eerie silence that made Sarah's skin crawl. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world that seemed too quiet, too still. She woke to find Noah's bed empty, and her heart nearly stopped until she heard his soft voice coming from the living room. "It's okay, Luna. The thunder is gone now. You're safe with us." Sarah padded barefoot down the hallway and found Noah sitting cross-legged beside the German Shepherd, who was awake but clearly still in tremendous pain. Luna's breathing was shallow, and Sarah could see that some of her wounds had reopened during the night. "Noah, honey, we need to get Luna to a doctor," Sarah said gently. "Dr. Emma next door," Noah said brightly. "She fixes animals, remember? She helped Mr. Peterson's cat when it got sick." Sarah had forgotten about their neighbor. Dr. Emma Chen was a veterinarian who worked at the animal hospital in town, but often helped neighbors with their pets. She was quiet, kind, and most importantly, trustworthy. "That's a wonderful idea, sweetheart, but first, let me look at that note again." Sarah retrieved the crumpled paper from where she'd left it on the kitchen counter. In the morning light, she could make out more details that she'd missed in the rain. The handwriting was shaky, desperate, as if written in a hurry. But there was something else, faint markings on the back of the paper that looked like numbers. She held it up to the window, squinting at the barely visible impressions. 2, 7, 4, 9. She could make out what looked like a phone number, or maybe an address. "Mummy, Luna won't eat the food I gave her," Noah said, worry creeping into his voice. Sarah looked over to see that Luna had barely touched the bowl of kibble they had put out for her. The dog's eyes were alert, but she seemed almost afraid to eat, glancing toward the windows and doors nervously. "Maybe she's not used to that kind of food," Sarah suggested, but something in Luna's behavior made her think it was more than that. The dog seemed to be listening for something, waiting for something. A soft knock at the front door made them all freeze. Luna's head shot up, her ears pricked forward, and a low growl rumbled in her throat, the first sound she'd made since they'd found her. "It's okay," Sarah whispered, but her own heart was racing. She approached the door cautiously and peered through the peephole. "Oh, thank goodness," she breathed. It was Dr. Emma, holding a medical bag. Sarah opened the door to find her neighbor's concerned face. "I saw you bringing in an injured dog last night during the storm. Is everything all right?" "Dr. Emma, I'm so glad you're here. This is Luna. We found her abandoned at the petrol station. She's hurt pretty badly." Dr. Emma stepped inside and immediately went into professional mode. She knelt beside Luna slowly, speaking in gentle tones. "Hello, beautiful girl. Can I take a look at you?" Luna's growling stopped the moment Dr. Emma spoke. It was as if she recognized something trustworthy in the veterinarian's voice. She allowed Dr. Emma to examine her, though she never took her eyes off the windows. "These wounds are definitely not from living rough," Dr. Emma said quietly, her face growing dark. "Someone did this to her deliberately. Look at these marks on her neck. They're from a shock collar, and these cuts on her legs, they're too precise to be accidental." Sarah felt sick. Who would do such a thing? Puppy mills, illegal breeding operations, dog fighting rings. There are unfortunately many people who see animals as nothing more than money makers. Dr. Emma continued her examination, her hands gentle but thorough. "But there's something else, Sarah. She's pregnant." "Pregnant?" Noah's eyes went wide. "Luna's going to have puppies?" "Yes, and soon, from the looks of it, maybe a week or 2 at most." Dr. Emma's expression was grave. "She's severely malnourished, which means the pregnancy is high risk. She needs immediate care, proper nutrition, and a safe place to deliver." Sarah sank into her chair, overwhelmed. She'd gone from rescuing one dog to potentially caring for an entire litter. "I don't know if I can handle all of this. I'm barely managing as it is." "The good news is that she trusts you," Dr. Emma said. "Look at how she's positioning herself. She's keeping you and Noah in her line of sight while watching the exits. She's appointed herself as your guardian." As if to prove the point, Luna struggled to her feet and moved to position herself between the front door and Noah. Despite her obvious pain, her stance was protective, alert. "She's guarding us?" Noah asked in wonder. "More than that, she's chosen you as her pack. That's incredibly rare for a dog who's been abused like this." Dr. Emma began pulling supplies from her bag. "I'm going to clean her wounds and give her some antibiotics. But, Sarah, there's something else you need to know." The serious tone in Dr. Emma's voice made Sarah's stomach clench. "What?" "These injuries, the systematic nature of the abuse, the shock collar marks, this looks like the work of professional criminals. If they abandoned her, it might be because she's no longer useful to them. But if she's pregnant with valuable puppies, They might come looking for her, Sarah finished, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. It's possible. You might want to contact the police just to be safe. Sarah thought about the note again, about the warning not to trust anyone, but surely the police would help, wouldn't they? As Dr. Emma worked on cleaning Luna's wounds, Noah sat beside them, gently stroking the dog's head. Don't worry, Luna. We won't let the bad people hurt you anymore. Luna looked at the little boy with such intensity that it took Sarah's breath away. There was something almost human in that gaze, as if the dog understood every word and was making her own promises in return. Dr. Emma, there was a note with her when we found her. It had some strange writing on the back, numbers. Do you think they might mean something? Dr. Emma paused in her work. What kind of numbers? Sarah showed her the paper, pointing to the faint markings. Dr. Emma squinted at them, then pulled out her phone's flashlight to get a better look. These look like registration numbers, she said slowly, possibly kennel registration or breeding certificates. Sarah, this could be important evidence. Evidence of what? Of where she came from. Professional breeding operations keep detailed records, especially if they're running an illegal puppy mill. These numbers might lead back to whoever did this to her. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Should I call the police now? Before Dr. Emma could answer, Luna suddenly stood and walked to the front window. Her hackles rose, and she began a low, continuous growl that made the hair on Sarah's arms stand up. What is it, girl? Dr. Emma whispered. Noah joined Luna at the window, peering out through the curtains. There's a car out there, Mummy. It's been sitting there for a long time. Sarah's blood ran cold. She moved to the window carefully, staying hidden behind the curtain. A dark sedan was parked at the end of their street, and she could see at least 2 figures inside. How long has it been there? She asked, trying to keep her voice calm. Since before Dr. Emma came. I saw it when I was watching for her. Dr. Emma finished bandaging Luna's wounds quickly. Sarah, I think you should call the police right now. This doesn't feel like a coincidence. She wants to go outside, Noah said. No, Noah. If those people are watching the house... But Luna's agitation was increasing. She ran back to Noah, gently grabbed his sleeve with her teeth, and tried to pull him toward the back door. I think she's trying to tell us something, Dr. Emma said. Dogs have instincts we don't understand sometimes. Sarah looked out the front window again. The car was still there, but now she could see one of the occupants talking on a phone, making plans, calling for backup. We need to get out of here, she said suddenly. I don't know who those people are, but Luna's terrified. And that note warned that they were coming for her. Where would you go? Dr. Emma asked. I have a friend who lives on a farm about an hour outside of town. Lucy would let us stay there while we figure this out. Dr. Emma nodded. That might be wise. Luna needs a quiet place to recover anyway, and if she's going to give birth soon, she'll need somewhere she feels safe. They quickly gathered essential supplies, food, clothes, Luna's new medications. Sarah tried to act normal, not wanting to alert whoever was watching that they suspected anything. But as they prepared to leave through the back door, Sarah made a discovery that chilled her to the bone. The numbers on the note, she recognized them now. They weren't registration numbers at all. They were coordinates. Dr. Emma, she whispered, showing her the paper, these aren't kennel numbers. They're GPS coordinates. Dr. Emma's face went pale as she realized the implications. Someone wanted Luna to be found. This isn't a random abandonment. It's a trap. A trap for who? For anyone kind enough to help her. They knew someone would take her in, and now they know exactly where she is. Luna whined softly, as if she understood their conversation. She moved to Noah and pressed against him protectively, her blue eyes filled with an intelligence that seemed almost supernatural. Mummy, Luna says we have to go now, Noah said with the matter-of-fact tone children use when they believe something completely. How do you know what Luna says, sweetheart? She talks to me, not with words, but I can understand her. She says the bad people are coming and we have to run. Sarah wanted to dismiss her son's imagination, but something in Luna's posture confirmed his words. The dog was preparing for flight, every muscle tense and ready. Dr. Emma gathered her supplies quickly. I'm coming with you. Luna's going to need medical attention when those puppies come, and something tells me this is bigger than just a stolen dog. They slipped out the back door, moving through Sarah's small garden toward the alley behind her house. Luna stayed close to Noah, occasionally looking back toward the front of the house where the sedan waited. Sarah's car was in the garage, but accessing it would mean going back toward the front of the house. They would have to find another way. "My car is parked around the corner," Dr. Emma whispered. "If we can get to the next street over without being seen." They moved carefully, using fences and bushes as cover. Luna seemed to understand the need for stealth, her paws silent on the ground despite her size. But as they reached the corner of the next street, Sarah heard car doors slamming behind them, voices calling out. The trap had been sprung, but they were too late. Their prey had escaped. "This way," Dr. Emma urged, unlocking her car as quickly as possible. They piled in, Sarah and Noah in the back with Luna, Dr. Emma driving. As they pulled away, Sarah looked back to see two men in dark clothes standing in her front yard, one speaking urgently into a phone. "They're in my house," she whispered. "They're actually in my house." Noah wrapped his arms around Luna, who had curled up to make herself as small as possible. "It's okay, Luna. We're all together now. They can't hurt you anymore." But Luna's expression suggested she knew better. She'd been running from these people for a long time, and she knew they wouldn't give up easily. The difference was that now she had something to fight for, this little boy who spoke to her without words, and the woman who'd risked everything to save her. As Dr. Emma drove toward the outskirts of town, taking back roads and checking her mirrors constantly, Sarah called her friend Lucy to explain the situation. Lucy, bless her heart, didn't ask too many questions. She just said to come quickly, and that they'd figure everything out once they were safe. But safety felt like a distant dream, as Sarah watched Noah whisper secrets to Luna, the dog's intelligent eyes never leaving his face. Whatever was happening, whatever those people wanted with Luna, Sarah had the sinking feeling that they were all in much deeper than she'd ever imagined. The coordinates on that note weren't just a location, they were a promise that no matter where they ran, they would be found. Lucy's farm sat nestled in a valley, surrounded by rolling hills and dense woods, the kind of place where secrets could be kept and strangers would be spotted from miles away. As Dr. Emma's car crunched up the gravel driveway, Sarah felt some of the tension leave her shoulders for the first time since they'd fled her house. Lucy emerged from the farmhouse before they'd even parked, her weathered face creased with concern. She was a woman in her 60s who'd spent her life working with animals, and she took one look at Luna and immediately understood the gravity of the situation. "Bring her inside quickly," Lucy said without preamble. "I've prepared the back room. It's quiet and warm." They helped Luna out of the car, and Sarah was amazed to see how the dog's demeanor changed the moment her paws touched the earth. Her ears perked up, and she lifted her nose to scent the air. For the first time since they'd found her, Luna's tail wagged with something approaching happiness. "She likes it here," Noah observed, his small hand resting on Luna's head. "She says it smells like safety." Dr. Emma shot Sarah a meaningful look. The child's connection with the dog was becoming more pronounced by the hour, and it was both beautiful and slightly unnerving. The back room Lucy had prepared was perfect. Soft blankets spread across the floor, water and food bowls waiting, and most importantly, only one entrance that could be easily watched. Luna explored every corner thoroughly before settling down with a contented sigh. "Now then," Lucy said, settling into a chair with a cup of tea, "suppose you tell me exactly what's going on." Sarah explained everything, finding Luna, the mysterious note, the coordinates, the men watching her house. Lucy listened without interruption, her expression growing more serious with each detail. "I've heard rumors," Lucy said finally. "There has been talk in the farming community about illegal breeding operations moving through the area. Dogs disappearing, strange vehicles seen on back roads at night. The police have been looking into it, but these people are smart. They move around a lot." "What kind of breeding operations?" Dr. Emma asked. "The worst kind. Puppy mills that produce dogs for fighting or for selling to people who want protection animals that have been trained to be vicious. They steal pregnant females, force them to have litter after litter, then dispose of them when they're no longer useful." Sarah felt sick. That's what they did to Luna. "Looks like it, but here's the thing that's bothering me. Why leave coordinates that would lead back to them? Unless what?" Lucy's eyes were troubled. "Unless they wanted her to be found by someone specific, someone they could use to get to something bigger." Before anyone could respond to that chilling thought, Noah spoke up from where he sat beside Luna. "She's trying to tell me something important." They all turned to look at the little boy, who had his forehead pressed against Luna's head in concentration. "What is she saying, sweetheart?" Sarah asked gently. "She says there are others, other dogs like her, still trapped. And Noah paused, his face scrunching up as if he was trying to understand something difficult. She says the bad people think she has something that belongs to them. What could she have? Dr. Emma wondered aloud. Luna suddenly stood and walked to the corner of the room where her blanket lay. She began digging at it frantically, whining softly. Noah followed her and knelt down beside her. "She wants us to look at something," he said. They gathered around as Luna continued to paw at the blanket. Then Sarah noticed something that made her gasp. Hidden in Luna's thick fur, almost invisible unless you were looking for it, was a small object attached to her collar. "It's some kind of device," Dr. Emma said, examining it carefully. "Too small to be a tracking chip, but—" Lucy leaned in for a closer look, and her face went pale. "That's a micro SD card." "A what?" "A data storage device, the kind used in cameras and phones." Lucy's voice was grim. "If Luna was in an illegal breeding operation, and she has this hidden on her—" "She has evidence," Sarah finished. "Photos, videos, records of what they were doing." "That's why they want her back so badly," Dr. Emma realized. "It's not just about the dog or even the puppies. She's carrying evidence that could shut down their entire operation." Luna seemed to understand their conversation. She looked at each of them in turn, then walked back to Noah and sat down beside him, placing her massive head in his lap. "She's tired," Noah said softly, "and scared, but she's happy we know her secret now." Over the next few days, they settled into a routine at the farm. Dr. Emma stayed to monitor Luna's pregnancy, while Sarah tried to figure out their next move. The micro SD card remained hidden on Luna's collar. They were afraid to remove it in case it was somehow booby-trapped or contained a tracking device of its own. Luna's transformation during those peaceful days was remarkable. The fearful, broken animal they'd found at the petrol station gradually gave way to the magnificent dog she was meant to be. Her coat began to shine, her wounds healed, and most importantly, she began to trust. But it was her relationship with Noah that truly amazed everyone. The boy and the dog seemed to communicate on a level that defied explanation. Noah would often be found sitting with Luna, both of them perfectly still, as if engaged in a conversation no one else could hear. "Look at this," Lucy said one morning, pointing out the kitchen window. In the yard, Noah was playing fetch with Luna, but it wasn't ordinary fetch. Noah would think about where he wanted the ball to go, and Luna would run to that exact spot before he even threw it. When Noah got tired and sat down, Luna immediately came to lie beside him, not because he called her, but because she somehow knew he needed comfort. "It's like she can read his mind," Sarah murmured. "Or maybe he can read hers," Dr. Emma suggested. "Some children have a natural ability to connect with animals on an intuitive level. Noah might be one of those rare kids." But their peaceful interlude was shattered on the fourth day when Luna's behavior suddenly changed. She became restless, pacing the room and whining softly. At first, they thought she might be going into labor, but Dr. Emma's examination revealed that the puppies weren't quite ready yet. "Something's wrong," Noah announced, pressing his hand against Luna's side. "She says they're coming. The bad people found us." Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. "That's impossible. We were careful. No one followed us." But Luna's agitation was increasing by the minute. She kept going to the window and looking out toward the road, her hackles raised. Lucy grabbed a pair of binoculars and scanned the horizon. "I don't see anything, but Luna's instincts are probably better than ours." They spent the rest of the day on high alert, taking turns watching the roads that led to the farm. Nothing. No suspicious vehicles, no strangers asking questions in town. But Luna remained anxious, refusing to eat and staying close to Noah at all times. That night, Sarah woke to the sound of Luna's low growling. The dog was standing at the bedroom window, every muscle tense. Sarah crept over to look out, but saw only darkness and the familiar shapes of farm buildings. Then she heard it, the distant sound of car engines, running without headlights. "Dr. Emma," she whispered urgently, shaking her friend awake. "They're here." Within minutes, they had Luna and Noah in the back room, lights off, waiting in tense silence. Lucy grabbed an old hunting rifle from her closet, her hand steady despite her age. "How many vehicles?" she whispered. Sarah peered carefully through a crack in the curtains. "I can see at least 3, maybe 4. The cars were positioning themselves around the farmhouse, cutting off escape routes with military precision. These weren't random criminals, they were professionals. Luna's growling intensified, and Noah wrapped his arms around her neck. "She says they have guns," he whispered. "And they're not just here for her anymore. They want us, too." Why would they want us? Sarah asked, but even as she said it, she realized the answer. They were witnesses now. They knew too much. A spotlight suddenly blazed to life outside, flooding the farmhouse with harsh white light. A voice called out through a megaphone. "We know you're in there. Send out the dog and the evidence, and no one gets hurt." Lucy snorted quietly. "Right, because criminals are always so trustworthy." "What do we do?" Dr. Emma whispered. Before anyone could answer, Luna made the decision for them. She suddenly bolted toward the front of the house, breaking free from Noah's embrace. "Luna, no!" Noah cried, scrambling after her. But Luna wasn't running away. She was positioning herself between the front door and the family that had saved her. Her stance was protective, ready for battle despite her pregnancy and still healing injuries. The front door exploded inward with a crash that shook the entire house. 3 men in dark clothing burst through, weapons drawn, but they stopped short when they saw Luna standing in the hallway. "There she is," one of them said with satisfaction. "Hello, Star. Miss us?" Star. That must have been Luna's original name, Sarah realized, but the dog didn't respond to it now. She was Luna, and she belonged to them. "Easy now," the man continued, pulling out what looked like a shock collar remote. "You remember what happens when you don't cooperate." Luna flinched at the sight of the device, memories of pain and fear flickering across her face. For a moment, Sarah thought she might submit, might remember her training to obey these monsters. Instead, Luna did something that shocked everyone in the room. She began to howl. It wasn't the sound of a dog in pain or fear. It was a battle cry, a call to arms that seemed to echo across the entire valley. And amazingly, it was answered. From somewhere outside came the sound of barking, lots of barking, then more sounds, as if every dog within miles was responding to Luna's call. "What the hell?" one of the intruders muttered. Lucy smiled grimly. "You just made a big mistake, boys. This is farming country. Half the dogs around here are working breeds, and they don't take kindly to strangers threatening their territory." The sound was getting closer. A pack of farm dogs, alerted by Luna's call, was converging on the house. Sarah could hear their owners shouting, wondering what had stirred up their animals. But the most amazing thing was Noah. The little boy walked calmly out of the back room and stood beside Luna, placing his small hand on her head. "You can't have her," he said simply. "She's not yours anymore." The lead intruder laughed harshly. "Kid, you have no idea what you're messing with. That dog is worth more than your house." "She's not worth anything," Noah replied with the devastating honesty of childhood. "She's priceless, and she's family." Luna looked down at the little boy beside her, and something extraordinary happened. All the fear, all the cowering, all the learned helplessness from months of abuse simply melted away. She was no longer Star, the broken breeding dog. She was Luna, protector of Noah, guardian of this family that had shown her love. The transformation was visible, physical. She seemed to grow larger, more powerful, as she stepped forward to shield Noah from the men with guns. "She won't come with you," Noah continued conversationally. "She told me she'd rather die first." And looking at Luna's stance, her raised hackles, her bared teeth, Sarah believed it was true. This dog would fight to the death before she'd let these men take her or hurt her new family. The sound of approaching vehicles filled the air. Not more criminals, but farmers responding to the disturbance, probably armed and definitely not happy about strangers threatening their neighbor. The lead intruder raised his weapon, pointing it directly at Luna. "We'll see about that." But before he could pull the trigger, the most unexpected thing happened. Dr. Emma stepped forward, holding up a small device that glinted in the harsh spotlight. "Looking for this?" she asked calmly. It was the micro SD card they had found hidden on Luna's collar. Somehow, Dr. Emma had managed to remove it without anyone noticing. "That contains everything, doesn't it?" she continued. "Records, photos, locations of your operation, names of buyers, sellers, everyone involved." The men's attention shifted immediately from Luna to the tiny card in Dr. Emma's hand. "Give it to us," the leader demanded. "I don't think so," Dr. Emma replied. "You see, I've already made copies. Multiple copies. And if anything happens to us, those copies go straight to the police, the FBI, and every animal rights organization in the country." She was bluffing, Sarah realized. There hadn't been time to make copies, but the men didn't know that. "You're lying." "Am I? Luna's been carrying evidence of your crimes for weeks, maybe months. Photos of the breeding facility, videos of the abuse, financial records. everything needed to bring down your entire network. The sound of dogs barking was getting closer, along with the voices of angry farmers. The intruders were running out of time. "Last chance," the leader said. "The card, or everyone dies." That's when Luna made her move, not toward the men, but toward the back of the house, herding Noah away from danger with gentle nudges. She was no longer the cowering victim. She was a mother protecting her young, and her protective instincts had kicked into overdrive. Because Luna wasn't just pregnant with puppies anymore. In her mind, Noah had become her cub, her responsibility, her reason for living, and she would die before she let anyone hurt him. The standoff lasted only seconds, but it felt like an eternity. The sound of approaching vehicles grew louder, and the lead intruder made a quick calculation. 3 against an entire farming community wasn't good odds, especially when they had lost the element of surprise. "This isn't over," he snarled, backing toward the broken door. "We know where you live, what you drive, where the kid goes to school. The dog comes home with us eventually, one way or another." They retreated as quickly as they had arrived, their vehicles disappearing into the night, just as the first of the neighboring farmers arrived. Lucy stepped outside to reassure her neighbors that everything was under control, while Sarah and Dr. Emma stayed inside with Noah and Luna. "Are they really gone?" Noah asked, his small voice shaking slightly. Luna walked over to him and gently licked his face, her way of offering comfort, but her ears remained pricked, listening for any sign that danger might return. Sarah felt overwhelmed. How do we even know who to trust? These people seem to have resources, connections. What if the police can't protect us? Before anyone could answer, Luna suddenly stiffened and let out a sharp whine. She looked around frantically, then began pacing in tight circles. "What's wrong with her?" Lucy asked, coming back inside. Dr. Emma immediately went to examine Luna, and her face went pale. "She's going into labor. The stress from tonight has triggered early delivery." "But you said the puppies weren't ready yet." "They're not. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Her body can't handle much more trauma." Luna's breathing became rapid and shallow. She looked around desperately, as if searching for the perfect place to bring her babies into the world. But everywhere she looked, she seemed to remember the men with guns, the threats, the danger that surrounded them. "She's too scared to settle down," Dr. Emma observed. "She needs to feel completely safe, or this could go very badly." Noah seemed to understand instinctively what Luna needed. He walked over to the corner where her blankets were spread and sat down cross-legged. "Come here, Luna," he said softly. "It's safe now. I'll protect you and your babies." Something about the little boy's voice, his absolute certainty, seemed to calm Luna immediately. She walked over to Noah and lay down beside him, her massive head resting on his lap. "That's it, girl," Dr. Emma encouraged, gathering her medical supplies. "You're going to be just fine." But as the hours passed, it became clear that the delivery was not going to be easy. Luna was exhausted from weeks of poor nutrition and stress. The first puppy was born weak and barely breathing. Dr. Emma worked frantically, clearing the tiny airways and stimulating breathing. "Come on, little one," she murmured. "Fight." Noah watched with wide eyes as Dr. Emma performed what amounted to CPR on a puppy no bigger than his fist. "Is it going to die?" he whispered. "Not if I can help it," Dr. Emma replied grimly. For several terrifying minutes, the puppy lay motionless. Luna whined softly, nudging her baby with her nose, as if willing it to live. Sarah found herself holding her breath, praying to whatever forces might be listening. Then, miraculously, the tiny chest began to rise and fall. The puppy's mouth opened in a silent mewl, and suddenly it was breathing on its own. "Thank God," Sarah breathed. Noah gently touched the puppy's tiny head. "Welcome to the world, little one. Your mama was very brave to bring you here." Luna looked at Noah with such gratitude that Sarah felt tears spring to her eyes. This dog understood that this child had somehow helped save her baby's life. 2 more puppies followed, both born healthy and strong. Luna cleaned them carefully, her maternal instincts taking over despite her exhaustion. But as Dr. Emma examined the 4th puppy to be born, her expression grew concerned. "This one's not breathing," she said quietly. Noah immediately reached for the lifeless puppy, cradling it against his chest. "Breathe," he whispered. "Please breathe. Your mama needs you." He began gently rubbing the puppy's chest, just as he had seen Dr. Emma do with the first one. "Come on," he pleaded. "Luna says you have to stay. She says she loves you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, impossibly, the puppy's tiny body shuddered, and it took its first breath. Dr. Emma stared in amazement. That shouldn't have worked. The puppy was gone for almost 3 minutes. But Noah just smiled and carefully placed the puppy next to Luna. Sometimes they just need to know they're wanted, he said simply. Luna gathered all 4 of her babies close, her eyes never leaving Noah's face. Whatever connection existed between the boy and the dog had grown even stronger during this crisis. As dawn broke over the farm, they had 4 healthy puppies and 1 exhausted but proud mother. Luna seemed transformed by motherhood, her protective instincts now extending to her babies as well as to Noah. But their moment of peace was shattered when Lucy's phone rang. "It's the police," she said, her face grave as she hung up. "Someone reported a break-in at your house, Sarah. When the officers arrived, they found it completely ransacked. And there's something else. Your neighbor across the street said she saw men loading boxes into a van, boxes that looked like they might contain animals." Sarah felt sick. They're not just after Luna, they're collecting other dogs too. "It gets worse," Lucy continued. "The police ran a check on those license plates from the vehicles we saw last night. They're registered to a shell company that's been linked to illegal animal trafficking operations across 3 states. Dr. Emma pulled out the micro SD card. "Then we need to get this to the FBI immediately. If it contains what I think it does, it could shut down their entire network." But even as they made plans to contact the authorities, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were still in danger. The men who'd broken into the farmhouse had seemed too confident, too prepared. They knew something that Sarah and her friends didn't. That afternoon, while Luna slept peacefully with her puppies, Noah made an announcement that chilled everyone to the bone. "Luna says the bad people are coming back tonight," he said matter-of-factly, "and this time, they're bringing a lot more friends." "How could she possibly know that?" Sarah asked, though she'd learned to trust Noah's interpretations of Luna's messages. "She can smell them. They left something behind last night, something that tells her they're tracking us." Dr. Emma immediately began examining Luna more thoroughly, running her hands through the dog's fur. "Here," she said suddenly, "there's something embedded under her skin, right behind her left ear." It was tiny, barely visible, but definitely artificial. A tracking chip, but not the kind used for pet identification. They've been able to follow her anywhere she goes, Dr. Emma realized. That's how they found her at the petrol station, at your house, here at the farm. "Can you remove it?" Sarah asked. "I can try, but I'll need to sedate her. And with the puppies just born..." "Do it," Lucy said firmly. "If we don't, we'll never be safe." The procedure was delicate and dangerous. Luna had to be kept conscious enough to nurse her babies, but relaxed enough for Dr. Emma to make the precise incision needed to remove the chip. Noah stayed by Luna's side throughout the entire process, whispering encouragement and keeping her calm. "It's okay, Luna. Dr. Emma is helping you. Soon the bad people won't be able to find you anymore." When Dr. Emma finally extracted the tiny device, it was smaller than a grain of rice, but obviously sophisticated. "Military grade," she observed. "This isn't something you can buy at a pet store." "Which means these people have serious backing," Lucy said grimly. "Government connections, maybe, or at least access to military equipment." As if to confirm their worst fears, Noah suddenly looked up from where he was comforting Luna. "They're here," he said simply. This time, there was no sound of approaching vehicles, no lights. These people had learned from their previous mistake. Lucy grabbed her rifle and moved to the window. "I don't see anything." "They're in the woods," Noah said with certainty. "Luna says they've been watching us all day, waiting for dark." The next few hours passed in tense silence. They took turns keeping watch, but saw nothing unusual. The farm dogs remained quiet. Even Luna seemed calm, focused entirely on her new babies. But as midnight approached, Luna's behavior changed. She began gathering her puppies closer, her body tense with anticipation. "Something's wrong," Noah whispered. "Luna says they're not here for her anymore." "What do you mean?" "They want the puppies. They think the puppies are special too." Before anyone could ask what he meant, the power went out. The farmhouse was plunged into complete darkness. "That's not an accident," Lucy muttered. "They cut the lines." In the darkness, they heard Luna's low growl, more menacing than any sound she'd made before. She was no longer just protecting herself, or even Noah. She was protecting her babies, and nothing on earth was more dangerous than a mother defending her young. The first sign of intrusion came not from the doors or windows, but from above. footsteps on the roof, moving with practiced stealth. "They're coming through the attic," Dr. Emma whispered. Luna rose carefully, leaving her puppies in their warm nest, and positioned herself between them and the ceiling. Her hackles were raised, and her teeth were bared in a snarl that would have terrified a lion. The sound of splintering wood came from overhead, followed by a soft thud as someone dropped into the house. But this time, Luna didn't wait to be cornered. She attacked. The sound that erupted from the darkness was unlike anything Sarah had ever heard. Part roar, part howl, part something primal that spoke of millennia of wild ancestry. Luna had transformed from pet to predator in an instant. Shouts came from the front of the house, followed by a scream of pain and terror. Someone was running, crashing through furniture in their haste to escape. "She got one of them," Lucy said with grim satisfaction. But they all knew this was far from over. Luna had won the first battle, but the war was just beginning. What they didn't know was that Noah was about to make a discovery that would change everything they thought they understood about Luna and her mysterious past. Comment below if you think Luna and her puppies will survive what's coming next, because what Noah discovers will shock you to your core. In the chaos that followed Luna's attack, emergency lights flickered on throughout the house as Lucy's backup generator kicked in. The scene that greeted them was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Luna stood in the hallway, blood on her muzzle, her blue eyes blazing with a fury that seemed almost supernatural. At her feet lay torn pieces of black clothing and what looked like expensive surveillance equipment. "Where did the intruder go?" Dr. Emma whispered. Luna tilted her head toward the front door, which hung open on broken hinges. Outside, they could hear the sound of vehicles starting up and racing away into the night. But as they stood there catching their breath, Noah noticed something that made his eyes widen with wonder. The 4 puppies, who should have been helpless newborns, were all sitting up in their nest, their eyes open and alert. Puppies weren't supposed to open their eyes for weeks. "Dr. Emma," Noah called softly, "something's different about the babies." Dr. Emma hurried over to examine the puppies and gasped. "This is impossible. Their eyes shouldn't be open for at least 10 days. And look at how alert they are, how responsive." One of the puppies, a little female with the same striking blue eyes as Luna, crawled over to Noah and placed a tiny paw on his hand. The moment they touched, Noah's expression changed completely. "Oh," he breathed. "Oh my." "What is it, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, kneeling beside her son. "She's talking to me, not like Luna talks to me, but really talking, with words in my head." Noah's voice was filled with wonder. "She says her name is Star, like Luna's old name, but she's not scared like Luna was. She says they've been waiting to meet me." Dr. Emma's hands were shaking as she examined the other puppies. "Their neural development is accelerated beyond anything I've ever seen. It's like they're aging weeks and hours." "That's because they're not ordinary puppies," Noah said matter-of-factly, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. "Luna isn't an ordinary dog either. She's special. That's why the bad people wanted her so badly." "Special how?" Sarah asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer would be beyond anything she could imagine. Noah looked at Luna, who had returned to her babies and was now watching the humans with an intelligence that seemed almost human. "She's from a secret place, a laboratory where they made dogs smarter, much smarter. Luna can understand everything we say, everything we think. She always could." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If Noah was right, if Luna was the product of some kind of genetic experimentation, then her value to the criminal organization wasn't just about breeding ordinary puppies for sale. "The micro SD card," Dr. Emma said suddenly, "if it contains evidence of genetic experimentation on animals, it would be worth millions to the right buyer," Lucy finished grimly, "or to the wrong one." As if summoned by their conversation, Luna walked over to Dr. Emma and gently took the woman's hand in her mouth, leading her to a corner of the room. There, she began pawing at the floorboards with deliberate precision. "She wants us to look under the floor," Noah translated. Lucy grabbed a crowbar from her tool shed, and together they pried up the loose floorboard Luna had indicated. Hidden underneath was a small waterproof container. Inside the container were documents, official-looking papers with government seals, laboratory reports, and photographs that made Sarah's stomach turn. The photos showed dozens of dogs in sterile laboratory conditions, wired with monitoring equipment, undergoing procedures that looked more like torture than science. "Project Cerebrum," Dr. Emma read from one of the documents. Neural enhancement protocols for canine subjects. Funded by... She trailed off, her face going pale. Funded by who? Sarah demanded. The Department of Defense. This was a military project, Sarah. They were creating super-intelligent dogs for espionage and warfare. One photograph in particular caught their attention. It showed a younger Luna, before the scars, before the abuse, wearing a collar with the number 47, and looking directly at the camera with those same piercing blue eyes. Subject 47 shows unprecedented neural development, Dr. Emma read from the accompanying report. Intelligence quotient estimated at near-human levels. Telepathic capabilities confirmed. Subject has demonstrated ability to communicate complex concepts through psychic connection with handlers. Recommend immediate classification as top secret. Telepathic capabilities, Sarah repeated faintly. You mean Noah isn't imagining their connection? Look at this, Lucy said, pointing to another document. Subject 47 was scheduled for termination when the project was shut down, but she escaped during a facility fire, along with several other enhanced subjects. Noah was sitting with all 4 puppies now, his eyes closed in concentration. When he opened them, his expression was grave beyond his years. Luna says the bad people aren't criminals, he announced. They're from the government. They want to restart the project, but they need Luna and her babies to do it. Government agents? Sarah felt her world tilting. But they broke into our house, threatened us with guns. Black ops, Lucy said grimly. Off-the-books operations that don't officially exist. If they're willing to kill to get Luna back, it means this project is worth more than we can imagine. Dr. Emma was still reading through the documents. According to this, the enhanced dogs were designed to be the perfect soldiers. They could infiltrate enemy territory, gather intelligence, even carry out assassinations. But the program was canceled when several subjects became too intelligent to control. Too intelligent how? Sarah asked. They started making their own decisions about right and wrong, refusing orders they considered immoral. Some even turned against their handlers to protect innocent people. Luna walked over to the scattered documents and carefully picked up one particular photograph with her teeth. She brought it to Noah, who studied it intently. This is the place where Luna was born, he said, but it's not destroyed. They rebuilt it somewhere else, and they've been trying to recreate the experiments ever since. That's why they need Luna. She's the only successful subject still alive. The little puppy called Star crawled into Noah's lap and nuzzled against his neck. Suddenly, Noah stiffened. They're coming back, he said urgently. Not tonight, but soon. And this time, they're bringing the scientist who created Luna. He knows how to control her. Control her how? Dr. Emma asked. Before Noah could answer, Luna herself provided the demonstration. She walked to the center of the room and sat perfectly still. Then, to everyone's amazement, she began to speak. Not bark, not whine, speak. Her voice was rough, unused to forming human words, but unmistakably intelligent. Danger, she said slowly. Protect Noah. Sarah nearly fainted. Dr. Emma grabbed the back of a chair for support. Even Lucy, who thought she'd seen everything in her 70 years, stood with her mouth hanging open. You can talk, Sarah whispered. Luna nodded, a distinctly human gesture. Always, could, not, safe, be for. Why is it safe now? Luna looked at her puppies, then at Noah. Babies need protection, no more hitting. Over the next hour, Luna's story emerged in halting words and Noah's translation of her thoughts. She had been born in a laboratory, subjected to genetic modifications that enhanced her intelligence far beyond normal canine limits. When the project was shut down, she and other enhanced dogs were scheduled for elimination to preserve the secret. Luna had escaped during a staged fire that was meant to destroy all evidence, but she wasn't free. Rogue elements within the military had continued the experiments in secret, using her offspring to create a new generation of enhanced animals for sale to the highest bidder. The puppies, Dr. Emma realized. They want the puppies because they inherit Luna's enhanced genetics. Warsea, Luna said, her voice growing stronger with use. Want me to breed more. The thought made Sarah sick. Luna had escaped one hell only to be forced into another, a breeding factory for super-intelligent dogs that would be sold to criminals, terrorists, or anyone willing to pay for living weapons. We have to get you somewhere safe, Sarah said. All of you. But Luna shook her massive head. No safe place. They find always. Then we fight, Noah said with startling determination. We fight them together. Luna looked at the little boy who had saved her life, who had helped deliver her babies, who understood her in ways no human ever had. Yes, she said simply. Fight. The next few days were spent in preparation. Dr. Emma used her veterinary connections to contact animal rights organizations and investigative journalists. The government documents were copied and distributed to multiple safe locations. If anything happened to them, the story would still get out. Luna's speech improved dramatically with practice. Her vocabulary was limited, but her ability to communicate complex ideas through a combination of words and telepathic connection with Noah made her an invaluable ally in planning their defense. The puppies, meanwhile, continued their accelerated development. By the end of the week, they were walking, eating solid food, and showing signs of intelligence that defied everything known about canine behavior. Star, the little female who had connected with Noah first, proved to be the most advanced. She could already communicate simple concepts telepathically and showed an understanding of human emotions that was almost uncanny. She's going to be even smarter than Luna, Dr. Emma observed as she watched Star solve a puzzle toy meant for adult dogs. Smart enough to help us, Noah said confidently. Their peaceful preparation was interrupted on a Tuesday morning when Lucy's motion sensors detected vehicles approaching the farm. But this time, the vehicles weren't trying to hide. A convoy of black SUVs drove openly up the farm road, followed by a van marked with the logo of the Department of Health and Human Services. They weren't trying to sneak attack anymore. They were making this official. Luna immediately gathered her puppies and positioned herself in front of Noah. Pretend, she told him. Pretend. I can not speak. A man in an expensive suit emerged from the lead vehicle, flanked by what were obviously security personnel. He approached the farmhouse with the confidence of someone who believed he held all the cards. Good morning, he called out pleasantly. I'm Dr. Marcus Webb from the CDC. We're here about a possible outbreak of experimental rabies. We have reports that you're harboring an infected animal. Lucy stepped onto the porch, her rifle conspicuously visible. That's funny, Dr. Webb. The CDC usually calls ahead for something like that. Dr. Webb's smile never wavered. This is a matter of national security, ma'am. The animal in question was exposed to a modified strain of rabies during laboratory testing. If she's given birth, her offspring could be carriers of a virus that could devastate the domestic dog population. It was a clever lie, Sarah had to admit. Difficult to verify, scary enough to justify extreme measures, and official-sounding enough that most people would cooperate. But they weren't most people. I'm afraid we'll need to see some identification, Dr. Emma said, stepping into view, and proper warrants for any search or seizure. Dr. Webb's pleasant mask slipped slightly. Dr. Chen, isn't it? Your veterinary license could be revoked for harboring diseased animals. My license is issued by the state, not the federal government. And I've seen no evidence of any disease in the animals under my care. Behind Dr. Webb, Sarah could see more people emerging from the vehicles. Too many people for a simple health inspection. These were soldiers, or the closest thing to soldiers that could operate on domestic soil. Luna pressed against Noah's leg, and the boy nodded slightly. The dog isn't sick, Noah announced, walking out onto the porch. And her name is Luna, not Subject 47. Dr. Webb's mask finally fell away completely. Hello, Noah. You've been taking very good care of our property. We're here to bring her home. She is home, Noah replied simply. And she's not property. She's family. That's when Dr. Webb made his fatal mistake. He signaled to his men, and they began moving to surround the farmhouse. Luna didn't wait for them to get into position. She let out a howl that could be heard for miles. Not a call for help this time, but a war cry that seemed to shake the very air. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Dogs began appearing from every direction. Farm dogs, hunting dogs, strays that had been living in the woods. But these weren't ordinary animals responding to Luna's call. These were the other escaped subjects from the laboratory. Dr. Webb's face went white as he realized what was happening. Luna hadn't been alone all these years. She'd been gathering the other enhanced dogs, building a pack, preparing for this moment. The battle for Luna's freedom was about to begin, and the outcome would determine not just her fate, but the future of genetic experimentation on animals forever. Tell us in the comments what you think will happen when these super intelligent dogs face off against the government agents who created them.